Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Next Level of Firewall Security. I'm Amber Noble, a marketing specialist at Barracuda MSP, and I'm happy to be moderating today's session. Today, I'm joined by Mark Balagier, a systems engineer here at Barracuda MSP, and Justin Ridenau, our manager of professional services. During today's educational webinar, they will review the unique functionality of Barracuda's NextGen Firewall. Before we get started, let's do some brief housekeeping. During the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to share them using the questions or chat panels to the right of the Zoom webinar screen. At the conclusion of the webinar, you'll be prompted to complete a brief polling survey. Please take a moment to tell us what you think so we can continually improve the content and quality of our online events. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Mark to begin today's presentation. Take it away, Mark.
Thanks, Amber. So I really appreciate everyone joining. The first thing we want to talk about is a little bit of background about organizations and the modern network and where things have been and where they're going. So we'll notice a lot of growth of internet applications, growth of public cloud offerings, a lot of virtualization has taken place, and the network architecture has generally changed. So what we overall see with this is a lot of new challenges with security, in the sense that no longer are people connected to a data center backbone or physically hardwired at a home office location or a central office location. Now people are in their home offices, they're connecting at airports, they're connecting on all different types of devices, which really creates a lot of challenges for the network as well as security. And so it's great that we're able to share this information very freely and wherever we want, but you also need to make sure that you're able to protect that information and protect your users and employees. So let's talk a little bit about the evolution of the firewall. In the beginning, it was just a simple traditional firewall, basically doing some network segmentation, making sure that one group of addresses could get to another group of IP addresses over a certain port using a certain protocol. And like I said before, this is basically just network segmentation of something that can be done by any router. And so there was really a need to have a better understanding of the traffic traversing the network and a little bit more visibility into it, and that's where the next generation firewall came into play. So the next generation firewall was really focused on application control and visibility. So being able to inspect that traffic and understand not only its address, where it was coming from, where it was going to, but also understanding what specifically it was. Was this social media traffic? Was this business traffic? And once you made that understanding, you're able to better create your policies around that traffic so that the users would have an optimum experience and you were optimizing your bandwidth usage overall. And so we've actually come out with something called the CloudGen Firewall, which incorporates some additional technologies into that fundamental technology that created the next generation firewall. As I said before, the CloudGen Firewall includes these new technologies such as WAN optimization, termination of VPN points, some advanced routing features. Really things that used to be separate devices on the network have now been incorporated into the CloudGen Firewall, making it very versatile and a great edge device that's meeting pretty much all of your needs in most cases. So we look at the firewall itself. On the box, you see some pretty standard features, really what you would expect in any modern firewall. All of your filtering capabilities, all of your user and content protection, and making sure you're basically protecting your users from what they need protection from, as well as handling traffic appropriately with traffic shaping and quality of service. From our cloud, we're going to get a couple things. We're going to get our energized updates, which are basically any type of firmware update, any type of signature update that's going to be coming from the Barracuda cloud. Our advanced threat protection I'll actually talk about on the next slides. And of course, our web filtering updates. So as new websites are released into the wild, we want to make sure that we're appropriately categorizing them and making sure that you're maintaining that same user experience so that these new websites go into the right categories and everything is updated. So talking a little bit about advanced threat protection, one of the most important features in the security world going on right now. But before we get into that, it's really important that you understand a feature called SSL interception. So basically in the past, a user was able to create a secure tunnel from wherever their workstation was all the way up to the internet, download whatever file they wanted, and it would be encrypted all the way through the network, all the way through the network devices, and basically to that end user. So very secure, sounded great until attackers started realizing that they could bundle in malware with these commonly downloaded files, and the next thing you know, files were being pulled into networks over an encrypted tunnel, so all that the firewall would see is an encrypted stream, and then they get to that end user, and then the end user would end up infecting the network. And so in order to prevent that from happening, SSL interception was kind of created. And basically what that is sort of a white hat man in the middle. So instead of letting that file and encrypted tunnel go all the way through to that end user, we're actually going to terminate that encrypted tunnel at the firewall, decrypt its contents, take a look inside, and see if they're malicious. If they are malicious, we're able to terminate that tunnel and not let that file onto the network. If they are not malicious, we can go ahead and re-encapsulate them, send them down the tunnel to the end user, and they're none the wiser at what went on. So really important to make sure that nothing is getting onto your network, that you're not aware of its behavior. And so basically how this process works is a couple different things going on in machine learning, which we'll talk about on the next slide. So machine learning that we use is broken down into 4 different processes. We start from the bottom and work upwards. So step 1 is signature analysis. So it's very easy to identify, not a lot of cycles on the firewall, and most things and known attacks are picked up by this very easily. So basically we're just seeing if this file matches a known signature of something that's malicious, and we're able to block it right away. If that file gets through that, we do something called behavioral analysis. Really, this is taking a look at the file to see if it's trying to do any malicious behaviors like overwriting files, accessing the registry, trying to hide itself, all these different things that are known suspicious or malicious activities. If it still gets through there, we're going to do something called static analysis. Basically, what we're trying to do is take a look at grouping of different behaviors to see if the overall outcome is going to be malicious. Basically, trying to understand what this executable file does without actually executing it. And so with those 3 levels, you see on the left, it says about 95% efficiency. Usually I've seen it closer to 98 or 99% efficiency. So really, really good at getting almost all of those attacks out there and preventing them from getting onto your network. The real trouble is those last 1 or 2% though, because those are the unknowns. Those are those zero-day attacks, the real troublesome things that no one's ever seen before. So what happens if it gets to this step? If that's the case, we actually upload that file to our cloud, and we do a lot of resource-intensive things on it. So doing stuff like operating system emulation, speeding up time, simulating mouse movements, really just trying to detonate this file to understand its true nature. Once that's known, we're actually able to write a signature for it or associate it with a known signature. Then we push that signature out to our Barracuda databases worldwide, and in turn push that out to all of our Barracuda devices worldwide. And so this is something that I think Barracuda has a really great advantage over some of the other players in the market, is that because we're a security-focused company, we have multiple hundreds of thousands of devices deployed all over the world, and not just firewalls, but also email security devices and other web security devices and endpoints. And so what we're able to do is kind of use all this information from all these different attacks and threat vectors that we're seeing all over the world and kind of create a very complete list of our database of all of this information that can be shared across all of our devices. So you could be in a situation where in the morning, someone gets an email that has a file attached to it. It goes through this process. We write the signature. We push it out to all of our devices. A couple minutes later, someone on the other side of the world surfing a website tries to download that same file. We're already going to protect them from downloading it because we're going to know it's malicious already. So really great how all these technologies are sharing that information. So very, very powerful and very, very important. Again, making sure that nothing is getting onto your network, that you're not aware of its behavior, and protecting yourself from those zero-day, zero-hour type of attacks, because attackers are becoming more and more crafty in a sense that they'll notice now when they're seeing an attack starting to get blocked. And so they're going to try to make iterations and changes to it to see if they can now get it around security. So you need to have this advanced threat protection in place to make sure you're not going to get hit with the latest iteration of ransomware or CryptoLock or something like that. So we can talk a little bit about URL filtering. Got a great grouping here, 96 different categories. all kind of put together, and some nice features we've got built in here. Something that I like to point out is not only allow and block, but also warn and continue. This is a great feature because basically it allows you to put a little reminder to someone to say, hey, you're on the corporate network, just be mindful of your behavior. My favorite example is if maybe someone's checking their fantasy sports scores in the middle of the afternoon on a work day, not really malicious behavior, but you can put up a little pop-up that says, just go ahead and click OK, and you can continue to the site, but just be mindful that we're monitoring all the network traffic. And then, of course, we do have exception capabilities, so any kind of whitelist and blacklist, you can add exceptions to any of those categories. And the bulk edit feature is very nice in the sense that if you did have a list of exceptions or URLs already laid out, you could just import that spreadsheet in and not have to worry about retyping everything. So next thing we'll talk about is application detection. So really, this is the kind of the fundamental piece that makes up the next generation firewall, being able to identify all of the different pieces of traffic. And as you can see here, you can identify different users, identify different times that you want these rules to be put into place with the scheduling feature. Obviously, the source and destination IP addresses. But if you look under the application, you can really see the granularity that we can get to. So we're not only are we defining Facebook traffic, but we're also defining the sub-applications inside those. So you can make very, very broad strokes as far as security policy, but then also go into very, very granular strokes for creating rules for a specific individual at a specific time, really giving you the capability to do whatever you like. So we take that technology of being able to understand what these applications are, traversing the network and making those policies around there, and we take it a step further with something called application-based provider selection. Really what this is the capability to be able to route based on application. So as you can see here, maybe you've got a company running this firewall. They've got multiple uplinks, ISPX, ISPY, and ISPZ. Maybe ISPX is not very reliable. It's pretty cheap, but it's a backup that they're paying for and they have it. So you can decide, you know what, whatever social media we're going to allow, just the general Facebook, let's just send that over ISPX. We're paying for the bandwidth. That way we don't have to worry about it clogging up our other uplinks so that business critical traffic can go through there. And then you can say, hey, ISPZ is our most reliable link. Let's make sure that all of our Office 365 traffic goes through there, and then you can go ahead and set that up. So it's a really great way to manage your bandwidth, especially giving this understanding of what kind of traffic is traversing the network and where you want to send it, just so you can maintain business continuity and ensure that the right traffic is going through the right uplink. So if we build on that concept a little bit more, we get to something called traffic intelligence and WAN virtualization. So this is really SD-WAN. If you think about that same scenario before, maybe that primary uplink is taking all of your business critical traffic. Maybe your secondary uplink is taking all of that social media traffic that you're allowing. That same kind of situation right here. If that primary uplink is going down for some reason, we're able to dynamically shift all of the traffic to the secondary uplink and dynamically change the quality of service on that. So now that business critical traffic is getting top priority, and that social media traffic or whatever's going on there before is getting best effort. And so this is a great way, again, to maintain business continuity. You'll give your customers some great uptime. And along with that is some great options for some cost savings. So if you do have customers that are going to have an MPLS link, for example, very, very reliable, but also very, very expensive, you can achieve those same type of uptimes and reliability by using this technology and saving, in most cases, thousands of dollars. So some really great technology we have built in with this SD-WAN. Some additional features, if you're doing site-to-site VPN, there's the options to do health checks between the links. There's the options to set up things so that they're lossless. So you're sending the same traffic down multiple tunnels. Really a lot of great bundling and QoS ways to handle traffic, just to make sure that the right traffic is going down the right link. For example, if you had some voice traffic, you want to make sure that it's going over the link with the lowest latency. If you've got a backup going on, you want to make sure that's going over the link with the most bandwidth. So really, really a lot of great ways to control and handle the traffic to make sure that you're optimizing your data streams. From a remote user perspective, we have a lot of different ways to connect over VPN. So the first thing we have is our CUDA Launch app. This is basically designed for your tablet or smartphone, available in the Apple Store and the Android Store, to give you the option to connect remotely that way. We also have a browser-based SSL VPN, so you can go completely clientless. You basically create a custom splash page, allow users to log in that way, and then make sure that they get access to the right resources without having to have a client. And then, of course, the full-fledged VPN client, perfect for the road warriors. You can install that on the laptop so they can get access to all the information and company resources they need, regardless of wherever they are. Another nice thing I like to point out on this slide is the public cloud piece. So we're actually the most deployed firewall in public cloud currently, and this is for a couple of really good reasons. So Barracuda was a very early mover in the public cloud space, and so what's nice about this is that regardless of how you deploy one of our firewalls, physically, virtually, or in the public cloud, it's going to have the same management interface, and it's going to have the same features and functionalities. You're not going to have to worry about sacrificing anything depending on where you want to deploy it. So we see this a lot with different customers kind of making migrations. Maybe they start out with a wiring closet, so you want a physical firewall there because that's where everything's located. But in a couple of years, they decide, hey, let's move everything up to AWS. You know what? No problem. You can deploy a firewall on AWS, provide them the same level of protection. That firewall is protecting the resources in AWS, and you're off and running, again, without having to make any adjustments to configurations or learning any new interfaces to manage it or sacrificing any features. It makes everything very, very easy to make those transitions and really get your customers the right fit. We also offer customized reporting, so we can create reporting pretty much on anything you want. So you could customize it even down to a specific user over a specific period of time. But the best part about it is it's absolutely free. So you don't have to spin up a server or pay for any type of subscription. Basically, you just download the report creator from our website, point it at the firewall, it pulls that information, and then you can use that information to generate reports. We have a lot of templates already pre-built that are going to kind of pick the top statistics that are going to be relevant to your customers, and then you can basically, if you see on the top right, you can rebrand it with your own logo, pass that on to them, and really demonstrate your value as to what you've protected them from and what those configurations are giving them as far as an advantage in traffic control. The other nice thing that's great with this is that if you do see anything with a traffic pattern going on that maybe is something that you have as an MSP some value add you can offer, this is a great way to start that conversation and let them know. So overall, some great advantages of things that we talked about with the Barracuda firewall, being able to create a security policy that matches your customers' needs, being able to maximize the bandwidth that they're paying for and use it in optimum ways, and making sure that users are able to access information securely, as well as protecting yourself from any sort of threats that could potentially be coming in. But my favorite bullet point on here is the simple licensing piece. I spent a lot of time as a network security engineer at a couple different companies. One of the biggest ones actually had the most trouble basically trying to figure out what license for what feature on what device. I probably spent a quarter of my time trying to track it down. And it was just kind of a nightmare if you found out that, geez, the customer didn't purchase this, or it's the wrong thing that they bought. It's really a tough situation. And so something great that Barracuda does is has all the licensing included with the MSP model. So you never have to worry about a situation where a customer says, oh, I want to activate this feature. You don't need to adjust your licensing. That's all going to be included. This is especially helpful for stuff like VPN connections. So we don't charge anything for like a site-to-site connection or a remote user dialing in to a headquarters with an SSL VPN connection. We just want to make sure that you size the firewall appropriately to physically be able to handle it. But other than that, you're not going to be limited by anything like a seat count or anything like that. And so makes everything so much easier to handle and saves a lot of time. And so probably one of my favorite things about the Barracuda model with the MSPs. From a management perspective, we offer a couple options, and I'll just touch on these quickly, and then we'll hand it over to Justin. So the fully managed firewall as a service is a great option that Justin will be talking about on the next slides. We also have local configuration for standalone devices through a web user interface, basically being able to just fire up that firewall right away, go to an IP address, get logged in, and it'll guide you through some basic wizards to get the thing up and running and making sure that you've got everything connected the way you want it to. And when you start to grow a little bit, we usually see it at 4 or 5 firewalls. We also have something called the Control Center, which is this central management console for multiple devices. This is a really powerful tool that allows you to manage multiple devices from a single pane of glass. And with that, I appreciate it, and I'll hand it over to Justin. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mark. How's everybody doing today? I just want to go into managed firewalls. This is a great option for different types of people and different scenarios that you may see in your business and how you're running your business. So with the managed firewalls, anything that Mark talked about today, you can actually do. You can actually set up, and my team will set up for you. However, you are not having to do any of this. So we can go over what's included in the managed firewalls. We have our pre-installation readiness check. We like to call those our kickoff calls. Basically, we're going to make sure that you have a good time to set up and implement these firewalls. We're going to make sure we have everything ready to go, so we're not spending a lot of time on site. The kickoff call is usually 30 minutes or so. Then we kick it over to the onboarding, which is usually about a 2-hour time frame where you guys go ahead and physically install the firewall. You'll have one of my technicians on for every single firewall you purchase from us. And we will go into soup to nuts where we set everything up and we do testing before we get off the phone with you to make sure everything's good to go. The other great thing that we have is a 24/7, 365 monitoring of each firewall that you have. Any qualified threat that comes in through any firewall you have will be sent to you within 15 minutes of that. Within 15 minutes of that first contact, we're going to tell you, here's what we're doing to remedy this problem. And then within an hour of that, within an hour of the first initial contact, we're going to let you know, here's what was done, and here's the solution. So there'll be, anytime there's a remediable threat, you'll receive 3 emails from us. Any communication disruptions, if we can't see the firewall, we're going to let you know. Usually the site's down is what I've seen a lot, and it's just another eye on your site, which is fantastic. And then we do also have a weekly consolidated report, the report that Mark actually went through already. We're going to basically break that down for you and send that to you on a weekly basis. You will also have an exclusive phone line to my team and an email address. So who it's actually a good fit for, and we've seen a lot of different scenarios, and what I like to say is that it's actually a good fit for anybody. There's a million different reasons why you can offload some work to my team instead of having it internal. The biggest thing I've seen changing from VAR to MSP is a big scenario that we've seen. If you have limited bandwidth to get into new firewalls or anything like that, if you have limited bandwidth to manage what you're currently using, or if you just want to free up some time of your staff to go ahead and push them towards more revenue generating tasks, and that's a big step too. Or if you don't currently offer the firewall and you want to get into it. Now, one of the biggest things that we hear from our technicians and our MSPs that actually are on the program is now they can start offering 24/7, 365 monitoring and remediation for this, for the firewalls. So basically, you can offer this to your techs or offer this to your SMBs without adding additional techs. I myself, manage multiple different services, and this one I can honestly say that is zero touch for you after the initial onboarding. If you need any kind of changes, if you need just to whitelist something, you can call into my team or shoot an email over and we'll take care of it for you. I know if you are a VAR, you don't usually have the resources to go ahead or it's difficult to move over to an MSP. Well, this is a great opportunity for you to do that. So as I spoke before about reporting, this is a great opportunity for you to show your SMBs return on investment. So we'll generate those reports for you on a weekly basis. Now you can take these, as I said, they're on a weekly basis. So, you could take the culmination of these 4 different reports that we send to you over a monthly basis over the 3 different months that you have, and take these 12 different reports on your quarterly business reviews. And these are a great way to show the progress and what you've actually done for your customer. Some of the things that the detailed reports show, the detected intrusions, malware, botnets, spyware. We'll get into a couple more things that it actually shows moving forward. So each report comes out for every firewall that you have. Now, it's white labeled. It does have a Barracuda logo on there. However, this is a Barracuda firewall, so that's easy to speak about. But there's no other indication that we're doing any of the work for you. So you can send these reports right out to your SMBs if you want to do that. There are 11 different criteria that can be included in these, and I'll go over those as we move forward. For the return on investment with these, detected intrusions are the #1 thing that I hear about. End users and SMBs, they want to see what's coming in and what you've actually blocked for them. So this is great. This is the #1 thing we put on these reports, and it's a great value add for the customers. Now, as the weeks progress, you can see the change. Obviously, you don't want to see any kind of, well, I mean, you can, but gaming, gameplay, and game media, that kind of thing. If there's a lot of that, you can see that kind of thing. If it drops down, or if it goes up, you can say this is bad, good, and you can bring that to your end user. But you could definitely see that as the weeks progress. This is part of the report, and it's just basically the application. If you see Facebook on here, you see, Amazon Web Services, that kind of thing, iTunes. You want to see some more of the Salesforce and those kind of things, but you can definitely tell the difference. It's a very visual report for you and your end users. Another great part of the report is our actual overall risk assessment. It's color coordinated, so you can see what's going on, and in a very visual method. It's easy to send to your end users, just because of the way it's laid out. You're not going to get a lot of questions on does 3.8 in orange look, is that bad or good, or is 1.4 good because it's in green? That's done for you. Now, the other thing that's good about a return on investment, like I said, if there's any kind of threat detection or a remediable threat that comes in within 15 minutes, you're going to know. So you can actually go to your MSP and say, here's what we're doing for you. Here's what's going on right now. You can let them know. We're going to let you know via email. You can take that email and forward that on to your customer. So basically, you can go ahead and let them know that you're taking care of this for them. Basically, we want to go ahead and make you the hero. We don't want them to know that we're doing any of this for you. So you can go ahead and feel confident that you're selling this to your end user, and then you can actually go ahead and say these are the things that we're taking care of for you. The other thing that I wanted to go into, I don't think we have slides for, is our new SIM feature. Basically, what this is going to do is any threat that comes through the firewall is also going to go through our SIM layer. This is an advanced algorithm, and basically what we're going to do with that is we're going to correlate different intrusions to other intrusions that come in. So not just a single instance of something coming in. For an example, Justin, myself, if I sign in from the Chelmsford office to the network, that's okay. Also, I do a lot of work in Toronto, so if I signed in from Toronto, that's okay too. So the firewall is going to recognize those things and just see those things as single events. However, with this advanced algorithm, we're going to correlate those. Now, if those two instances happened within 5 minutes of each other, now it's a problem, and that's what our advanced algorithm comes in for. So that's an additional layer that's going to come out, and it's up and running right now, and we'll actually be giving you monthly reports based on those, based on our SIM layer as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Justin, and thank you, Mark. If anyone has any questions, well, we still have them on the line, go ahead and throw them in the chat panel. I'm going to launch the poll I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. If you would just give me 1 sec. Okay, so the poll's up. If you could just answer those 3 questions for me, and we will get to any questions that were asked in the chat.
Thanks, Amber. So I did see a couple in here. I guess any idea on pricing? If you contact your local representative, or if you don't know your local representative, you can always dial the number on the screen there, or sales@barracudamsp.com, and someone will definitely get in touch with you.